Video. It's more of a test of a new live show that we're hoping to bring out at Rask. And I thought for this test, why not talk about some investing books? So if you're watching on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, say g'day. My name's Owen Rask. I want to do a very short video on 3 investing books that changed my life. It's funny at Rask, when we do these discussions about books, they're actually some of our most popular segments on our podcasts or across our websites and so on and so forth. So if you do have a favorite book that you want to share in the chat, please jump in, put it in there, and I'll respond to it. I'm just going to spend about 5 or 10 minutes going through 3 of my favorite books and what I learned from them. I think I can share my screen on this thing too, so I'll give that a crack now. But if you haven't already, you can access our free Investor Bootcamp training manual. So this is the document which we covered in the Australian Investors podcast. If you jump into this document, you'll find it in a link on Rask Media. It's also available on my Twitter handle. This document takes you through all of the episodes we did recently for the 10-part series on the Australian Investors podcast, and it also takes you through some of the books that were recommended by the likes of Claude Walker, Andrew Page, myself, and other investors. You can see them all down the bottom here. Go in and have a look at that, because there are heaps of books available in there, but also you can also download this document and make it your own. So it's a really good free resource for you to use. So the 3 books I'm going to talk about, one is The Psychology of Money, which is by Morgan Housel. This is it's like no points for originality, they say, in investing. Well, also in book choices too, because this book has sold millions of copies around the world and translated into multiple different languages. I actually listened to the audiobook and I thought it was so fantastic. I went and got the book as well. You can see Morgan down the left-hand side here. We actually had Morgan on our Australian Finance podcast series to talk about the book and to talk about the launch and what I learned from writing the book, but also just writing in general. It's a fantastic book about not the numbers of investing, but the psychology of investing. And one of the things that he says is being good with money has more to do with how you behave than how smart you are. And so much of that rings true for me in my investing over the long period of time. I've seen that the best investors, or even just maybe not so much investors, but individuals that have made the most money, have been people who come to the idea of money and the idea of investing with the right temperament. So this book, The Psychology of Money, you can get it in audio or in video. It is absolutely tremendous. I think it's probably the most recommended book after the Barefoot book. And yeah, I just think it's a fantastic book if you want to learn about, I guess, the stories of people who have amassed wealth from modest or semi-modest backgrounds. So it's a fantastic book. Totally recommend this one for anyone, whether you're new or experienced. As an investor, I think it's a tremendous book. The second book that I wanted to talk about is a book that was mentioned on the Australian Investors podcast. It was mentioned in the 10-part series. It actually is from Robert Hagstrom, who is a professor, and he talks about basically the multidisciplinary learning. So learning about investing by understanding the world. And Claude Walker brought this up on the episode on the Australian Investors podcast. And there's a section in the book here. I've got it right here in front of me. You can probably see this on your screen if I just bring this up right here. It's a great book. And one of the things that he says in here, I'm just going to read, this is from the section on philosophy. He says, the only way to do better than someone else, or more importantly, to outperform the stock market, is to have a way of interpreting the data that is different from other people's interpretations. To that, I would add the need to have sources of information and experiences that are different. In studying the great minds in investing, the one trait that stands out is the broad reach of their interests. Once your field of vision is widened, you are able to understand more fully what you observe, and then you use those insights for greater investment success. And this is an example of, that quote just speaks true to having that worldly wisdom, which so many investors talk about, from Warren Buffett to Howard Marks to Ray Dalio, basically everyone who have stood the test of time, at least on the active investment front, can relate to that. And so this book, it's available online. I've got it here on the screen. It's from Booktopia here. and you can get it anywhere. But it's just a fantastic read. I'd say it's more like a intermediate style book, so it's probably not one that you would read if you're brand new to investing, because some of the concepts may go over your head a bit. Then the final book that I wanted to bring up is The Guerrilla Game, right here, which is the book that I reference a lot in the Australian Investors Podcast and elsewhere, for those investors who are interested in understanding how technology and specifically technology companies go on to dominate industries. So this is a book that was written in, I believe it was 1997. I don't actually see, 1999, here we go, the publication date. And this book talks about how companies who create standards in industries and industries that are really important go on to dominate that industry. And it's a fantastic book about, I guess, identifying those businesses. How do you can think about capturing those businesses, and then also going on to build a portfolio around them. So it's not the type of book that would be for everyone, in the sense of, unless you're interested in high growth investing with these more kind of like emerging companies, it's probably not, the book for you. If you're interested in dividend income, you probably wouldn't pick this book up. But I found it really illuminating because it gave me a way to think about owning and identifying companies in the technology or software space when the future of that industry is unknown, but with a high degree of certainty that it's an industry which will probably be a really important one in the future. So the Guerrilla Game is a really easy read. It relates to the other books like 100 to 1 and the multi-bagger books. And I think it's really interesting because it provides that framework. It's not just really abstract, like up in the air, here you go, just go and buy fast growing companies. It actually provides a really good framework for identifying these companies in basically any industry, but particularly in technology. Now, you've got to remember that this was written at the height of the dot-com boom. So to still be recommending it even after the bust, I think speaks to kind of the principles in the book and how you can use them even today. If you cast your mind back to 1999, things like Microsoft, Amazon, Pets.com, many different companies would have been the flavor of that year. But the reality is, some of those businesses have fallen away. And in the book, they talk to how that's okay, because that's kind of the natural evolution of markets, in that some businesses are not going to win. And it's not your job to pick every winner straight from out of the gate, which is something that many investors do struggle with. I know I struggle with that as well. So anyway, those are my three books. We've got The Psychology of Money. It's about behavior. It's good for it's good for more beginners, but also more advanced readers as well who are on that wealth journey. Got the Investing the Last Liberal Art, which talks about multidisciplinary learning. And then we've got the Guerrilla Game, which is more for active stock pickers, people who are really interested in finding kind of the quote unquote next big winners. And finally, you can also get all of these and more, all of these resources in the Investor Bootcamp training manual. So if you tuned in for this short video, thank you for coming along. It's a very short video today. I just wanted to really test out our new live streaming capabilities at Rask. So if you have any questions, find me on Twitter at Owen Rask, and I will see you on the other side. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you like this, and I'll see you